Hey everybody, let's talk Portuguese. Today we're going to be talking all about the language used to talk about the ongoing pandemic. This is not the video that I had planned for the end of March, however, as happened with a lot of people's plans for the spring, I've had to do a little bit of shuffling around with my work schedule. With that in mind, I thought it would be fairly relevant to do a video talking about all of the different ways in which we're talking about the current situation that is predominating everyone's lives right now. Before we get into today's video, if you're enjoying my videos and you'd like to buy me a coffee each month, you can do so on my Patreon. On my Patreon, you'll get to know what I'm working on next for my videos. First, you'll have access to extras from my videos, whether that's even more information from my videos or simply reading from these sources that I'm using for them, and even fun things like postcards directly from me to you, that of course being when things get back a little bit more to normal. I'm also offering a postcard to the first 25 people who sign up to my Patreon, regardless of whether they're on a tier or what tier that they're on. So if that all sounds interesting to you, head on over to patreon.com/Sashinka to find out all of the information. Now, on with the video. There has been quite a lot of new stuff going on, and going on very quickly and very suddenly. With all of that come a lot of new patterns of language that we've had to suddenly get adapted to. This, of course, is brought on by a pandemic or pandemia, the likes of which we have not seen in living memory. But that begs the question of what exactly this pandemic is, and that is a disease that is caused by the new coronavirus. This virus is called the new coronavirus, or SARS-CoV-2. And in Portuguese, that would be coronavírus. It is o coronavírus because we have the masculine word vírus as the root of that word. But when we're talking about the disease itself that this virus provokes, or COVID-19, in Portuguese that would be a feminine word and never masculine because we are referring to a doença. Because doença is a feminine word, it is absolutely incorrect to say o Covid-19 or o Covid and other variations thereof. The full name for this disease in Portuguese is Doença Respiratória Aguda por Vírus da Síndrome Respiratória Aguda Grave 2. This, of course, also corresponds to the English acronym SARS-CoV-2. So in Portuguese, if you're talking, you can say o vírus, o coronavírus, or even colloquially, it wouldn't be entirely far-fetched or incorrect to say o corona, but you should absolutely not be saying o Covid-19. Instead, you should say a Covid-19. With that sorted out, this is a disease that is spread by droplets that are coming from our respiratory systems, or gotículas da via respiratória. These can be in the air, or suspensas no ar, or on surfaces, em superfícies. The most common advice to prevent the spread of this is, of course, to wash your hands thoroughly and frequently, or lavar as mãos frequente e atenciosamente. The best way to wash your hands is, of course, with hand soap or sabonete, but you can also use hand sanitizer to do so. In Brazil, hand sanitizer is most commonly referred to as álcool em gel, but in Portugal we say gel antisséptico or gel desinfetante. Other advice that is commonly given is to wear a mask if you must leave the house, and that would be a máscara or máscara cirúrgica. Speaking of not leaving the house, the situation that many countries find themselves in is a situation of lockdown. Lockdowns or shutdowns and what have you are sometimes referred to as a lockdown, in Portuguese as a borrowed term, but the more common term is just the word quarantine or quarentena. A quarentena geral refers to a quarantine of a place, whereas quarentena can be something done individually or as a group. In a broader sense, a lockdown is referred to as a estado de emergência, or state of emergency. These can be at pretty much any level of government, and we have seen estados de emergência in entire countries like Spain and Italy, or even just in cities in a piecemeal fashion in a whole bunch of other places around the world. Among the medidas de contenção from the state of emergency would be a fechamento das fronteiras, or closing off of the borders to anyone who is not a citizen or legal resident. This could also be a paralisação da atividade econômica, or a stopping of economic activity as businesses are forced to close so that people don't agglomerate. This, of course, is to avoid large groups of people, or aglomerações de pessoas. On a more personal level, we have things like social distancing, or distanciamento social, isolation, or isolamento, and, of course, quarantine or quarantena. Quarantine for a lot of people has meant working from home, or trabalho desde casa, or teletrabalho. Those stuck at home might still want to be social, so they would be making use of videochamadas in order to call and see their friends and family. Work meetings or reuniões can also be made in such a fashion por via telemática. When not working but still stuck at home, many people turn to video games or videojogos, which they often are playing on video game consoles. In Brazil, a console is console, but in Portugal that would be uma consola. So for example, in Brazil we would have Nintendo Switch, but in Portugal that would be a Nintendo Switch. All of this can also be a form of confinamento. The point, of course, is to maintain a social distance or distância social in order for the virus not to spread any further or faster than it absolutely has to. The reason for that is that this virus is highly infectious or infeccioso. This, of course, is referring to the número base de reprodução, or in English we have the acronym R0, referring to the infection rate, or the rate of spread. All of that, of course, is meant to flatten the curve, as you may have heard talked about already, or achatar a curva epidemiológica. The reason for this is not to overload our healthcare systems. In Portugal, that would be the SNS, or Serviço Nacional de Saúde. In Brazil, we have o SUS, or o Sistema Único de Saúde. In each country, there are also operadoras privadas, which tends to be the case more so in the United States. A lot of time and attention in the news is now currently being dedicated to the various taxas that we have with regard to the numbers around the disease. We can have the taxa de crescimento, or the rate of growth of the disease in any given place, and we also have the CFR, or the mortality rate of the disease, which in Brazil is taxa de mortalidade, but in Portugal is more habitually taxa de letalidade. We can also talk about recovery in terms of pacientes recuperados and recuperação, which of course is the ideal scenario for anyone who happens to get it. Hospitals themselves are of course hospitais, but intensive care units differ in both Brazil and Portugal. In Portugal, that would be an Unidade de Cuidados Intensivos, or UCI. In Brazil, that would be an Unidade de Tratamento Intensivo, or Unidade de Terapia Intensiva, or UTI. Similarly, beds in hospitals are referred to as leitos in Brazil, but in Portugal they are simply referred to as camas. And with that, I think we've got a pretty general overview of the terminology used in order to talk about this pandemic and all of the things associated with it. If there are any terms that you feel that I should have included, feel free to leave a comment below, but for now, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you learned something or otherwise found it interesting, leave me a thumbs up down below. You might think about subscribing to my channel if you're not already. I make lots of videos about the Portuguese language, which you can find in playlists directly on my channel or in the eye above, and I will see you next time.